news tonight. Message to Bondi. Pam Bondi, the U.S. Attorney General, release the files. The Jeffrey Epstein files, in case you need clarification. Bondi, you promised. Now, deliver. I'm Nancy Grace.
When you have lost Nancy Grace, MAGA world, you are in trouble. Hi, my name is Suri Crowe, and you're watching the MeidasTouch Network. Okay, Nancy Grace just cracks me up. I've been watching her on and off forever, and, you know, she's severe, former prosecutor. Don't lie to me, cut to the chase. And she just never changes. I mean, I don't know. I just think she's kind of hilarious, but you know, she never changes. She's the same, except for in this case. She appears to be having a change of thought about this whole Epstein drama. You know, she's a regular on Fox and other right-wing outlets, but it seems like she has really lost her patience with Pamela Joe Bondi.
I'm very curious as to why the documents are not being disclosed. Now, Dylan Howard, you suggest a nefarious relationship between Trump and Epstein. Many celebrities take photos that later they wish they hadn't taken. Photos alone do not indicate wrongdoing on behalf of Trump. But I will tell you what is a smoking gun to me. We were told the documents would be released. Now we're being told there's nothing to see. If there's nothing to see, why not release them?
So as you can see, MAGA world is definitely blowing up over this Epstein drama.
The highest volume of calls into my office have been about Epstein. People want the information. They don't want things covered up.
Oh, but Marge, things are going to remain covered up as long as your dear orange leader and his #1 sycophant, creepy mannequin doll come to life. MAGA Mike Johnson can help it. Today, Johnson announced that he's recessing Congress until September. So it will be impossible for Congress to advance any type of votes to release the Epstein files.
And what I know about the president's heart on this is that he agrees with everything I've said here today. He wants maximum transparency, but he's also very insistent that we do not subject people who have already been victims of unspeakable crimes to further public scrutiny. And it would be a very dangerous thing to put those people's names out or to do a release of information in a way that is haphazard where they could be easily unmasked. And so you have to be very careful about how you do that. I think we have a moral responsibility to do that. We have a moral responsibility to expose the evil of Epstein, and everybody was involved in that. Absolutely. And we're resolved to do it. But we also have an equal moral responsibility to protect the innocent.
To protect the innocent? Excuse me while I puke. What Mike Johnson is clearly doing is protecting the pedophiles. He's protecting Donald Trump. Conversely, here's how Democrats are responding. And by the way, Democrats, along with some Republicans, passed a motion to subpoena Ghislane Maxwell before Congress. Now, that's not going to happen until September, thanks to MAGA Mike Johnson's covert move of recessing Congress until September. But here is ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia.
Democrats actually voted unanimously with Republicans on this motion, and so it's bipartisan. I think what's important right now is that we get as much information on the Epstein files, what happened, who was involved, and Democrats support that, including, of course, as we know, some Republicans. We know, broadly speaking, though, Donald Trump is completely opposed to releasing the files. He's trying to divert. He's clearly hiding something. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is obviously also trying to hide something. She has a lot of information, and so this is a piece of getting more information, but not the complete picture. I also want to add, I think it's really important that Ghislane we're happy to have her subpoena and have her come in front of our committee. But let's be clear, this is not a good person. This is also someone that's been convicted of serious sex trafficking crimes. She's serving time. She likely wants a pardon herself. And so that does complicate this process. But we do think it's important to hear from her. And so that's why we decided to move forward.
What's the end game here?
Look, the end game here is that we want a complete release of the Epstein files. We want it declassified, and we don't want those files to be protecting anyone, and certainly not the president of the United States. And so that is an important piece of this. But more broadly speaking, we know, as the Attorney General has said, they have the full Epstein files. There are actual written documents. There are videos in those files. There's an enormous amount of information we understand. And what's really concerning, and which concern the American public, is why Donald Trump has done a complete turnaround. Now that he actually had the power to release the files, he is choosing not to.
Are you at all worried about what may be in those files when it comes to Democrats, or is this an altruistic effort to try to just get as much information to the public as possible?
I'm not concerned, because at the end of the day, if you are sexually abusing young women, if you are committing crimes, if you are then somehow using that for political influence, everyone should be held accountable.
You see the huge difference? Democrats don't care if there is one of their own or a few who comes out in the wash. If all of this is eventually released, they don't care. Completely the opposite of MAGA world, which is doing everything it can to protect Donald Trump. It's just really sickening. And meanwhile, speaking of, Captain Chaos and Chief Arsonist was busy trying to distract his base by starting yet another batshit insane fire.
Donald Trump stooping to an ugly new low, even for him. He's making a claim that will be heard the world over, reviving an old and familiar and rather tired tactic of accusing a perceived political enemy of treason. Only this time, the subject was his first-term predecessor, former President Barack Obama.
The leader of the gang was President Obama. He's guilty. It's not a question. I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election.
He made that baseless, unsubstantiated, rather ludicrous accusation today in the Oval Office. It follows baseless, unsubstantiated claims from his director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard said that President Obama's officials engaged in a, quote, seditious conspiracy and hid evidence that Russia did not interfere in the 2016 election. Donald Trump's claims today, an accusation of a crime that is punishable by death, so outrageous that they drew this rare rebuke from President Barack Obama's office. It reads, quote, out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response. But these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee, led by then Chairman Marco Rubio. The very same Marco Rubio, little Marco to Donald, who currently serves as Trump's Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. His report concluded that Russia conducted an influence campaign in 2016 to do this, quote, harm the Clinton campaign, tarnish an expected Clinton presidential administration, help the Trump campaign after Trump became the presumptive Republican nominee, and undermine the U.S. democratic process.
And that same report that was chaired by then Senator Marco Rubio was signed off just recently by Trump's current CIA director, John Ratcliffe. So this is just another day where Trump is lying about his predecessors to cover his own corrupt and criminal ass. It is repugnant. It is shameful. I mean, it just, my God, when we get him out of there, the entire White House is going to need a severe, deep cleaning from the stains that man has left behind. Now, going back to where I started, loyal Trumpers like Nancy Grace are seemingly starting to crack, but they're pointing the fingers at Pamela Joe Bondi. Sorry, I have to call her Pamela Joe. I just have to. At least for now. I was reading through the comments under Nancy Grace's most recent episode, and hundreds of MAGA heads are calling for Bondi's head on a platter. What is amazing to me is that they refuse to acknowledge who's direct, like who is calling the shots? Who do they think is Pamela Joe's boss? It's Donald Trump. They don't seem to be recognizing, like, she's not doing this without the explicit directions of Donald Trump. You know, this DOJ is completely symbiotic with the Trump White House. Now, that's not the way it's supposed to work. Think back to the Biden White House with the Biden DOJ, where Merrick Garland seemed to be almost operating like a Republican. It was bizarre. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You're like giving Republicans, including Donald Trump, all of these sweeping passes when you are the appointed Attorney General of President Biden. It was like the complete opposite. Here you have Pamela Joe operating as like Donald Trump's personal Attorney General, and Todd Blanche, who was Donald Trump's personal attorney, is now the assistant. He's the deputy to Pamela Joe Bondi. So it's just so corrupt and so completely wrong. But my point is, like, in all of these comments, they're calling for Pamela Joe's head. And there were a few of the Trumpers who were like, wait a minute, who's her boss? Like, do you know how government works? Like, well, who's telling her what to do? So I did see some lights going off. But, you know, like these folks, the MAGA cult, is ride or die with a man who has skyrocketed prices, who has crashed our economy, who has lied to them over and over and over again about everything. And they will find out in 2 short years or less that their healthcare is disappearing, that they will no longer have healthcare coverage. And if they do, it's going to cost them 3 or 4 times as much money. But yet they remain loyal to Donald Trump. And yet when it comes to the Epstein files and the whole pedophilia cabal, that is, if it's not the hill they choose to die on, it's the hill they choose to at least crash out on. And I'm wondering if maybe in this entire brouhaha, some of them will peel away and start to put the pieces of the puzzle together. The reason that the Epstein files are not being released is because Donald Trump does not want them to be. And now, why is that? Huh? Why is that? Like, use your brains, folks. I don't know. They seem to just lack any critical thinking skills. But in any event, lost in all of this are the victims. And that's what makes me so sad, is the hundreds and hundreds of victims who allegedly were targeted by Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, and the clients who were involved in this sickening, disgusting circle of sex traffickers. And that's what's so heartbreaking. And, you know, some of them are no longer with us. I remain very skeptical about what happened to poor Virginia Giuffre. And she's not the only one who died by suicide. And I do remain skeptical about that. But just thinking about the story I recently did on Katie Johnson, and how many others out there are shaking with fear and are scarred for life. And Republicans don't give a flying flip about them. They don't care. They pretend, oh, we really want to, like, protect the innocent. No, you don't. Or you look at the way they just treat women. Anyway, I did a whole take on that the other day. But that's the tragedy here, is the victims. And they're, as per usual, this is what always happens. Like, I've covered court cases for years. It's always the victims that pay the price. In sex abuse cases and child abuse cases, in women's violence cases, it's just the victims are the ones that ultimately pay the price. And our system is just so broken. I mean, it's broken that Donald Trump is in the White House. My God, a 34 count felon. Like, what the flip, America? I really want to say some saltier words. But one thing I can assure you, guys, is that this story is not going away anytime soon, no matter how much Donald Trump wants it to, no matter how many insane accusations he makes about President Obama or Biden, or weird AI, freaky, totally unstable, insane memes, racist memes about President Obama being arrested, etc. He's not able to erase the Epstein, his years-long relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. So one of these days, the skeletons are going to come rattling out of the closet. They will. They will. All right, that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. I will see you back here soon.
The truth is more important than ever. Check out our new Truth Over Lies collection at store.MeidasTouch.com. All 100% USA union made.
Bye.